what's really excellent is, and it's a statistic that I think should be shouted from the rooftops, is that after 12 days from the first vaccination of the AstraZeneca vaccine, you are 100% effective against hospitalization and death. So, those are the statistics we need to be hearing.
Why haven't we heard that before?
Well, here I am. I mean, that is an excellent statistic, and I think it's one that does need to be shouted about. Absolutely. But it's one that's only just been released.
And they want the message to be out there that even on a beach, if you're looking at those pictures that we've just seen, if you're on a crowded beach, there's a risk of transmission. And in theory, if you go swimming in the sea, you should be wearing a mask.
We all want to keep safe on a match day, and the best way we can protect ourselves and other people is to get vaccinated. If you are eligible, get your booster booked as soon as possible for the best possible defence against COVID for you and your family.
What they're going to do in Austria, because I cannot understand for the life of me why people believe this rubbish on the internet, the anti-vax propaganda. It is deranged. We know there's figures from the Office of National Statistics that say, what is it? You're 32,000 times more likely to die if you've not been double jabbed from COVID.
It is beyond boring now, listening to under 30s sanctimoniously preaching from their high horse because somehow they think they're immune from the virus and they don't have to do their bits to protect others from this vaccine, from this virus. I've had this conversation with many friends, and I'm willing to cut people off if they're not willing to get out there, get the jab and protect others from this virus.
A little bit earlier than, if you get the brakes right on until we're all vaccinated, that's the safest way to do it. And I mean, all of us.
Including children?
Yeah, including children, yeah. I think we do need to vaccinate the vast majority of us in order to be able to keep the lid on this epidemic.
I've talked about this a lot, but I'm appalled by this.
Yeah.
And I really think it's not acceptable. And if you work in NHS and care work, and you're a potential risk to the people you're caring for, you either have the jab or you don't go to work, I think.
Angela, we either allow this or we end up holding people down and jabbing them by force.
No, you see, it's so... Now, as a lawmaker, do you support mandatory vaccines on film sets?
I support mandatory vaccines here.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
You've had your booster, and when you see people who will not take it, putting themselves at risk, it's said, how do you feel the same way I do? Does that make you angry?
It makes me angry, especially in America where they talk about, it's my right, it's my freedom. No, it's not, because you are a killer.
The quicker that everybody acknowledges that, without proof of the vaccine, you can't go into a pub, club, restaurant, gymnasium, anywhere at all. You can't travel, theatre. You can't even go into work. I mean, personally, I have to say, I don't even think that we should allow people on the streets unless they've had the vaccine.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F*** them, f*** their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
There is a virus here. It kills people. And the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
But look, those measures, those Plan B measures, are only in place because the Labour Party stepped up and acted in the national interest. The right thing to do, according to the evidence.
Yeah. You're quite emotional about that.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everybody that, we can get on with our lives, and
We want to see you again. COVID-19 has kept us apart for way too long.
We want to hug you. We want to celebrate with you. We want to worship with you. We want to play video games with you, preferably in the same room, so that we can see the look on your face when we beat you.
But in order to do all that, we all need to take the COVID-19 jab. So all of us in this together.
Things will slowly get back to normal. Well, what they're calling the new normal. But in reality, the new normal will mean needing a vaccine for doing the kinds of things we used to take for granted.
Because we love you, we want you to be safe. We don't want you to be left out or left behind.
Don't let your concerns be the thing that widens racial inequality in our society. Don't let coronavirus cost even more black lives. Because we matter.
We said last week, we do reserve the right to mandate certification at any point if it's necessary to reduce transmission. And I should serve notice now that by the end of September, when all over 18s will have had their chance to be double jabbed, we're planning to make full vaccination the condition of entry to nightclubs and other venues where large crowds gather. Proof of a negative test will no longer be enough.
People have got to understand vaccination is going to be, in the end, your route to liberty. Frankly, if you're not vaccinated at the moment and you're eligible and you've got no health reason for not being vaccinated, you're not just irresponsible. I mean, you're an idiot.
We need to make it clear to them that the vaccine is the ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And the window to do that is really narrowing. I mean, you were mentioning, Chris, about how all these states are reopening. They're reopening at 100%. And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have. Because otherwise, people are going to go out and enjoy these freedoms anyway.
And I want to speak directly to all those who have yet to get fully vaccinated. The people who think the disease can't hurt them. Look at the people going into hospital now. That could be you. Look at the intensive care units and the miserable, needless suffering of those who did not get their booster. That could be you.
Uppnå IT-harmoni med marknadsledande produkter. Som en trådlös mus.
That could be you. We made the big call to refocus our National Health Service, necessarily requiring the difficult postponement of many other appointments so that we could double the speed of the booster program.
We're going to move to a situation where, to protect the health system, we're going to lock out people who are not vaccinated and can be. If you're making the choice not to get vaccinated, then you're making the wrong choice. You're making the wrong choice. And for safety's sake, and back to that point about how much work our nurses have to do, as this becomes absolutely a pandemic of the unvaccinated and we open everything up, it's not going to be safe for people who are not vaccinated to be roaming around the place spreading the virus. That's what they'll be doing.
Herd immunity without vaccination is the strongest survive. You are literally saying, let weak people die. That is what you are saying. There is no herd immunity without vaccination.
Those who haven't had jabs but could have jabs need to have a badge saying unjabbed.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
If you decide that you don't want a vaccine or a booster, then you can decide not to go to hospital however ill you get. And that is your right.
So you would leave the unjabbed at home to die if they had a heart attack, if they suffered from a stroke?
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk.
But one important feature of this proposed legislation is that it gives staff a grace period in which to get vaccinated.
We just have to make people understand that, no jab, no life, and that's how it is.
Fully vaccinated foreign nationals. Fully vaccinated Americans. Those are the people who are allowed to come to Canada right now. Because we know that this fourth wave that is filling up ICU beds and putting a strain on healthcare systems across the country and slowing down our economic recovery in certain parts of the country is a wave that is affecting the unvaccinated.
Don't get the vaccine, you can't go to the supermarket. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to the ball game. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to work. You don't have the vaccine, can't come here. No shirt, no shoes, no service. That's where I think we should be right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's complete nonsense to claim that vaccine passports mean that you're being forced to get the vaccine. Everyone has a choice. We have choices in all parts of our lives every day, but choices have consequences. And if you're not willing to take the step that is scientifically proven to make yourself safer and those around you safer by getting your free 2 doses of the vaccine, then you are making a choice that has a consequence that you can't do some other things. And I think it's fair enough that the government has said they'll wait till September, because that's when everyone aged 18 and over will have had the chance of their second dose. So people that refuse to get that, for me, those people are selfish, they're dangerous, and I dare say they're a bit stupid.
We have to stop coddling the morons who will not get the shot. We start by calling them what they are. They are all snowflakes and cowards and idiots and losers.
And it's interesting to note, really, that Mr. Djokovic thinks it's okay for sports spectators, all his fans, to take the vaccine that allows him to get back to play the sport in front of them and earn millions again. It's okay for him to have them take the vaccine, but the vaccine is not okay for him.
So I hear what you say about somebody exercising their freedom not to have a vaccine, and they're perfectly healthy. I don't want them sitting next to me in the theatre. I don't want them standing next to me at the theatre bar. I don't want them next to me or anywhere near me or even in the same carriage on the train. So, they can exercise their freedom by staying at home.
About vaccine refusers, they're selfish, morally repugnant, irresponsible people who are enjoying their freedom because the rest of us are being vaccinated. All these vaccine refusers, their kids are going to school, they're going to hairdressers, they're coming into studios like this. Why? Because the large part of the population are being vaccinated. If we weren't vaccinated, if we didn't all have skin in the game, we'd all be mothballed. So it's all very well rolling your eyes.
Let me be clear. If you're in a state where hurricanes often strike, like Florida or the Gulf Coast or into Texas, a vital part of preparing for hurricane season is to get vaccinated now. Everything is more complicated if you're not vaccinated and a hurricane or a natural disaster hits.
We're putting up today is saying we should really distinguish between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. So both here at home, if we do have to adjust some of the freedoms.
We've tried the education, we've tried the carrot, we now move to the stick. If it takes time now, the time to find people, great. Let's start. Let's never go with €100, make it £100, right? And it starts, and I tell you what, it's not 60, but let's make it 40 and above, starting on Monday. Okay? Now, if we come round, knock on the door, and you can show on your phone or you've got a letter or something, you've got an appointment, that's fine. But if you willfully oppose now, you're 40 and above, £100 fine in December, £100 fine in January, £200 in February, £300 in March. By the end of the year, you'll be spending about £1,000, and that might cut through your ignorance.
Country could be locked down because our hospitals have been overwhelmed with people who chose to refuse the vaccine. So as far as I'm concerned, there should be a lockdown for the unvaccinated because they're the people that are going to burden the NHS.
Myths about the vaccine, that needs to be addressed. We still need more education.
Every day I read such nonsense on social media about these vaccines from ignorant, ill-informed people.
And then a few people are not prepared to have the jab. They keep going on about human rights and all this nonsense. The world's changed. We need to get everybody jabbed. It should be no job, no jab, no job, no travel if you've not had the jab. It should give them no of the furlough money if they've not had the jab. I know it's not what people want to hear, but we need to stop pussyfooting around. It's the only option we've got at the moment to get through the pandemic.
So you basically said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, there's two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is. So, yep.
I'll repeat it. If you are anti-mandate, you are absolutely anti-vax. I don't care what your personal vaccination status is. If you support, champion, give a green light, give comfort to, support anybody who argues against the vaccine, you are an anti-vaxxer. Absolutely. Your personal vaccination status is utterly irrelevant. And if you are out there in any way, shape or form campaigning against this mandate, you are absolutely anti-vax. If you say pro-persuasion, stuff it, shove it. We are absolutely going to make sure as many Territorians as possible are vaccinated. That is our best protection against this thing. And if you look at the Doherty modelling, it's only come out since, that says if we double dose 80 in remote communities, 5 and up, I think you'll see our vaccine mandate is absolutely crucial to protecting lives, particularly Aboriginal lives.
Vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please don't hesitate. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. Because once you're dead, then that's a bit too late. So I just want to say to all of you cowards out there, don't be such a chicken squat. Get out there and get shot.
It gives you almost 100% protection against being hospitalised and dying from COVID. And that's the statistic that people really need to know. It gives you almost 100% protection against being hospitalised.
So there has to be a level of discrimination in terms of, have you been vaccinated? If you can't be vaccinated, have you been tested?
Do you think it's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea, absolutely.
Really?
Yes, I do. I think, we're in a difficult situation, we're in a bind, and ultimately the freedom that we require, unfortunately, will be hindered in America. It's actually proving that the anti-vax and those who aren't being vaccinated, and I'm not saying they're the same thing, but, it amounts to the same thing.
So if we want to make sure that this is literally the last lockdown, then I would absolutely say that we shouldn't open up things until all over 18s are vaccinated.
I don't take the vaccination only to protect me. I take the vaccination to protect all the people around me. And I don't understand where that is a limitation of freedom. Because if it is, then not being allowed to drink and drive is a limitation of freedom as well.
To rolling out the vaccine. And it is good news that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was given out today. Particularly good news as it only costs £3 per dose. So for a few £100 million, you can vaccinate the whole country, compared to the £22 billion that's already been spent on test and trace, which clearly at the moment doesn't work very. I do not agree with so much of what Tony Blair stood for. Not just Iraq, Europe, many other things. But you know something? It was Tony Blair that made those arguments about the vaccine. It was Tony Blair that said, give 1 jab to each person, not 2, and we can then get a bigger part of the population dealt with quickly. It was Tony Blair advocating not hundreds, but thousands of centres where we can get people to get the vaccine. I mean, goodness me, we can even be doing it at motorway service stations. We were doing it everywhere.
Now that's a lot of jab-pushing scumbags who deserve their place on the shit heap of history, so share this around and make sure they can never live it down.